Hey there, friends. Welcome back to As a Man Thinketh on Anecdote TV. So today I wanted to talk about the blue meat wild boars that people are finding in California. Number one, this isn't necessarily a new story. This is something that was first discovered back in March of this year. I think that it has recently, for whatever reason, resurfaced as a story and has caused a lot of alarm for some people. I received an email the other day that basically said, see what your farmers are doing to the wild pigs in California. Like everything when it comes to news, they like to give you simple answers to everything. Simple answers that are, these pigs are being poisoned. They're being poisoned by rodent poison that comes from farms. And that's a simple answer. And so people start to blame the farmers, which is exactly what they want you to do. Blame the farmers. There's nothing else to see here. But there's more to the blue pigs in California than what you're being told. What you have to do when you read these things, if you care and you want to understand a little more about what's actually happening, you have to look into the area to figure out why, number one, there's so much of this pesticide that is being used on rodents in this particular area of California. Because it is a lot. There's a lot of rodent poison that's being used right now in this particular area of California. I'm going to trace this out for you. But the reason isn't necessarily so straightforward. It's not just the farmer's fault. This is a reaction to try and save an industry because California needs tax dollars. But the irony of it is the reason why this industry is in trouble and the reason why they need so much of this poison out there is because of policies of the state of California. Just so you guys know, we do have new bison tallow products in. For those of you who were on the pre-order, they shipped to you a couple days ago. You should actually be receiving them in the mail right now. We also have a brand new product in. This is called Bliss. What it is a bison tallow under eye cream to help you with those wrinkles. So this was a pretty popular product and we wanted to try it out and offer it to you guys as well. So we added those. You can order those on Yanasa Trading Co. Again, guys, these products are made in small batches with very little preservatives. So we do open the window for pre-order in between the times that we get stock. A lot of times by the time the stock comes in, all those pre-orders are going out and supplies run out fairly quickly. We're trying to increase the way that we can do that. But again, these are all made small batch and we're trying to get them out as fast as we can. So let's dig into this and let me explain to you what's going on. And first and foremost, these pigs are invasive. There's something about, I raise pigs. There's something about every pig in this world that will do whatever it takes to survive. They will destroy just about any enclosure you try and put them into if they don't have everything that they need right there, then and there. If they have everything they need, they're perfectly lazy animals and they won't try and do anything. But believe me, if there is anything that's a muck, they can get into anything, okay? Wild boars are such a problem because pigs have this amazing survival instinct and they can do just about anything to survive and then they multiply. They multiply by litters of like 10 or 12 a year, okay? So what we have going on across the United States, particularly with our northern border, is a massive wild hog invasion. And clearly, you know, stuff like poison's not going to kill these hogs. They have an incredible immune system, but it is turning the dye that they put in the rodent poison is turning their meat blue. So at least you know, and you don't go and eat it, because this poison does transfer from the animal that eats it to the next animal in line that eats it. It's a bit of a mess, but that is why their meat is blue, is because they have eaten high concentrations of this poison, or they have eaten other animals that have had high concentrations of this poison to kill them. There's another problem that has led to this problem, and that problem has been caused, like I said, by California policies that date back to 2014. There is basically a sea of rats invading the counties of California around this county where they've been finding these wild swine with blue meat, blue skin. Since last fall, This sea of rats has expanded to over 100,000 acres, mainly almond orchards within the Central Valley. So we're talking Fresno, Merced, Kings, and Kern counties. These rats have caused over $310 million to the almond industry. And it's not just, they're not just impacting the almond industry. I think that the almond industry is the one that's been impacted the most because of what it's producing. But and the rats are infesting the trees. But they have impacted other farms and other within this area. I mean, you're talking about just a sea of rats. So these rats are typically what you would call roof rats, but they actually burrow underground. And in climate conditions where there's not a lot of winter ground cover, where you don't have deep freezes, and they'll often blame this on climate change, but if you look at where these counties are located in California, and you understand that California is a pretty moderate climate, these rats have basically the perfect environment to burrow underground, repopulate, and they don't have that winter kill-off that is necessary really to kind of help get rid of these rats. The biggest problem with the rats in California, and again, I'm not talking about the politicians, the biggest problem I'm talking with rats in California is that California has seen a massive amount of orchard closings since 2014. I know within the past 5 years, California's seen the loss of around 8,000 farms altogether, which is a staggering amount. Believe it or not, they're not the highest. I got to call out the highest. The highest would be actually Texas. As surprising as that is, Texas has lost over 18,000 farms in the same period of time. The reason why Texas is losing farms has a lot to do with drought conditions, the water wars that have been going on, and the fact that they're basically rerouting a lot of this land and a lot of water rights to developing these massive AI data centers. I mean, Texas has really kind of gone from the big ranching state to the big AI state. Everybody in tech is going to Texas, okay? And that takes a lot of the natural resources that farmers need and reallocates that, including their land, to developing these massive corridors of artificial intelligence, data centers, technology. So that boom in Texas is essentially killing off farmers at a faster rate than what you see in Washington, which was 3,700 farmers over 5 years, California over 8,000 farmers in 5 years, and then you look at Texas, 18,000 farmers in 5 years. My point is that California is not losing the most amount of farmers, but they're definitely up there. And if you go back to 2014, you'll see that this pattern continues with the loss of farms in California. They've lost a significant amount of farms. A lot of the farms that they've lost are orchards, and then you've also seen things like in the Point Reyes where they've chased off ranchers from ranching land. California's just got some. At Merck, I did an article on the Anasa TV Substack talking about Merck in California and not renewing rancher leases. So there's a lot of anti-farming policies in the state of California, including even labor. I mean, California, Washington, Oregon, some of these states where they're losing a lot of farmers are also some of these states that have impacted and implemented a lot of these labor laws. So the only state exceeding those states, I think, is Texas, and that is, again, because of the drought conditions, the reallocation of water supplies, and this massive AI movement. So let's talk first about what happens when you lose a lot of these orchards in the state of California. Who gets the land? A lot of these guys file bankruptcy. Some of them just simply shut them down because they're not able to do anything anymore. If you can't water almond trees, for example, they dry up, they don't produce. They require a heavy amount of water. We have a couple of almond trees on our property here. So you've lost vast amounts, hundreds of acres of almond orchards since 2014. And what happens is these orchards become just breeding grounds for infestation of rodents. These dried up waterways and canals where they redirected surface water to help water a lot of these orchards become travel pathways, like basically highways for rodents. And so what we've seen in California that just started to come to a head in the fall of 2024 is that all of these abandoned orchards that have been breeding these infestations, these old waterways, have created the perfect corridors for these rats to just expand out. And at this point in time, they've infected over 100,000 additional acres of orchards. This is a pretty big problem. When you're talking about this rodent infestation that's going on in California, it's huge. So looking at these orchard closings, because that's where the problem is when these agricultural lands are no longer managed through good stewardship, which you will typically see on an active farm. You see people managing their property, you see them trying to control the pests, things are in check. Once that orchard is abandoned and those trees are dropping nuts, or they basically they're not in production anymore, but they're still out there. Okay, so you have this rodent infestation take over because of the abandoned orchards. That's where the problem lies. The farmers that are running the active orchards that are putting out all the rodent killers, they're the ones that are reacting, and they're reacting with state help, believe it or not, because the state is looking at this going, we need tax dollars from this industry, we got to keep them going. So they've been given the opportunity to continue operations, to continue using rodent killer that is illegal in other industries in the state of California, because they're battling basically a massive sea of rats that have come from a bunch of abandoned orchards, a lot of abandoned farmland. So I think we have to start looking at, okay, well, what has happened that has caused all of this abandonment in the state of California? The simple answer from the news would be climate change. But if you look back at 2014, California passed what they called the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. We'll just call it SGMA. This act changes the management of groundwater up until about 2042. And basically, the estimates when they passed this act back in 2014 was that between 2014 and 2042, you'd see a loss of about 750,000 acres of orchards and farmland in the state of California, because they were no longer going to be irrigated and watered as they implemented this policy and got further along in the process. So in the early stages, you didn't really hear much about it because it was kind of slow to catch on. As it's gone further and further and further, and they've restricted more and more water, you've started to see more and more abandonment of ranches, of orchards, of farmland, because it's no longer farmable. We've only been able to produce the amount of food that we have, and this is true around the world, really. We've only been able to produce the amount of food that we have to feed 8 billion people because of innovation. When we start to pull back that innovation, we're going to start seeing larger problems with our food supply. We're going to start seeing less and less of food produced, and it's going to raise food prices. I mean, that's just a matter of fact. The question I have always had on this channel is, if we're going to start doing this in a way that by 2030, let's just say, because that's when a lot of them have this deadline where they want to reach a lot of these goals. So by 2030, we're going to have reduced the amount of agriculture, or the amount of ways that we can produce food, and it's going to be at an extent where it's no longer you're just looking at food prices going up. Food prices going up are a symptom of the food supply being contracted. You're also going to start seeing shortages very similar to the shortages that we saw during COVID in 2019 on store shelves, where a lot of these things just become inaccessible to you. So I would, when people talking about the blue pigs and blaming it on the farmers, yes, the farmers are putting out this poison, but they're putting it out because they're fighting another problem, and that is a massive sea of rats covering 4 counties all around them. And the reason why all those orchards are facing this massive sea of rats is because of all of the vacant orchards and farmland that have been shut down because of this policy passed in 2014 that has slowly been impacting the way that California manages its groundwater up until its full restriction in 2042, in which case we will have seen 750,000 acres of farmlands and orchards wiped out by the state of California. It's a cause and effect. It's a chain of events that have led us to wild boars with blue meat. Now, they're also going to put a lot of this blame on trade and uncertainty because most of the almonds produced in the state of California are exported. But again, a lot of this, there are a lot, if you look over the years, there's been a lot of increases to the inputs that farmers have had to put in with inflation. There's been a lot of challenges that farmers have to face, but they cannot face those challenges without access to water. That's kind of the basis of this entire thing. So anyway, I wanted to do this video because, when somebody just simply gives an answer and puts the blame in one direction without looking a little deeper into the overall scenario, they're missing the much bigger picture here. And the bigger picture, in my perspective, is a very big problem. If we continue with a lot of this type of policy out of the state of California, and don't even get me started on the water cutoffs, I will do another video on that because that's a much bigger issue going on again with water in the state of California to save the salmon. But if we continue to go with these types of policies in this type of direction, what we're going to end up facing is a challenge feeding 8 billion mouths around the world. And when people around the world start to go hungry, especially when real hunger hits the United States, when that happens, what happens to society? It doesn't stay together. I mean, it's one of the fundamental reasons why every civilized and advanced society throughout the past has fallen apart, is the lack of one of the most fundamental resources that you could possibly have. Now, the answer to that has been lab-grown meats, lab-grown food. And again, that's another form of innovation, one that has actually been around a lot longer than people think. If you go to the grocery store, most of the things you buy on the shelves aren't real food. They're made up of all sorts of fake ingredients to be able to extend the real ingredients enough to feed people cheaply. And more people are waking up to that. And as more and more people wake up to that, they don't want to put that stuff in their body. And so I don't think that that's a good answer for the long term. And I don't know that I know that there is a good answer. I mean, there's obviously challenges that we're facing with water supply. I think that if we weren't moving in the direction of artificial intelligence, of these massive data centers and everything else, we would actually have less of a challenge with our supply of water. I mean, these things are taking a lot more water than farmers ever took. And it's happening on a mass scale at this point in time. I don't think every data center project that they propose is going to go through. It's kind of one of those chess games to see where they can get them and how many resources they can pool into them. But we are at this point in time facing what I think we're on the brink of some sort of catastrophe when it comes to our food supply, with the way that we've been going about these policies, with the way we've been going about trying to change the direction of ingenuity. Instead of making a system better, they're completely trying to disrupt one system to create another. And I don't think that disruption is going to go across well. So next time you see an article about blue pigs in California, think about the policies that are coming out of California, the irony of it. Anyway, guys, stay tuned for more here on Yanasa TV. I've got more videos for you shortly. Every day, more and more Americans are waking up to the fact that our society is simply unhealthy. We've been being fed poisons and being told to put poisons on our body by corporate America for years. A lot of the things that we've been told were bad for us, like animal fats, are actually good for our bodies. Your skin is the largest organ of your body, which is why on Yanasa Trade & Co., we're pleased to offer you guys bison tallow lotions and creams. These bison tallow lotions and creams are amazing. They're not made by a big corporation. They're made by a homesteader, just like you guys, our friends out of Canada, Dr. Nathaniel and Susan Ostashowski. We've visited numerous bison ranches and farms and parks across the entire continent of North America. And these are some really great people who have come up with some really great products, and you can buy them on Yanasa Trade & Co. and support this program and support your health all at the same time.